Former President Trump is hosting a slew of political rallies in several battleground states ahead of Election Day. He will travel to Iowa, Pennsylvania, Florida, and Ohio to build support for congressional and gubernatorial candidates he has endorsed. Trump will be on the road until the day before Election Day. CBS News political director Fin Gomez is in Washington with more on how the president's influence could impact the midterms. So, Fin, the former president announced that he is visiting Pennsylvania for the third time this year, just one day after his endorsed candidate, Dr. Mehmet Oz, debated Democratic rival John Fetterman. So how significant is his visit on the heels of this debate?
Hey, Vlad. Good morning. Yeah, it is a tight race in the Keystone State. Polls, including our own, show that it is a toss-up. I spoke to several Republicans, some associated with the Oz campaign, who say the former president's visit can be helpful in deep red areas, and a lot can be said for the crowds that he attracts, and it helps with base voters and getting out the vote. However, one top Republican official I spoke to says it says something that Oz has not committed to the rally yet. Trump can be a polarizing figure, and in a tight race like this one, his presence could potentially backfire and hurt Oz. It's such a tight race in Pennsylvania, Vlad, and also, you know, it'd be interesting to see how he characterizes Fetterman's debate performance.
So let's talk about the Save America Pact. It's touting record high inflation in Ohio, specifically ahead of former President Trump's visit, which is happening just one day before the election. So how important is the issue in Ohio, and specifically, I guess, or more broadly, across the United States?
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, inflation, of course, continues to be the #1 issue for voters in all polls, Vlad. Not most of them, but all of them. And in states like Ohio, it certainly is resonating. The Buckeye State has trended red in the last few cycles. So the former president's visit could actually help J.D. Vance in this the Republican in this close Senate race. But it also gives somewhat of an opening for the Democrat in this race, Tim Ryan, to say that Vance is too close, too associated with Trump, something he made a point of in recent debates. Vlad?
What's also sort of interesting is President Trump is going to hold a rally for Senator Marco Rubio in Florida. And we talked about this earlier this week, Vinny.
Yeah, we did.
But the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, is not going to be anywhere near that rally. Explain what's going on. What are you hearing?
Vlad, you know, it's really about 2024. It is a power move, a, quote, flex, according to a top Florida Republican operative that I spoke to. You know, DeSantis' world is not happy. The Trump advisors did not inform the Florida governor and his team ahead of this rally. When one of the top Florida GOP operatives that I spoke to said that these two are both assuming that the other is going to be running in 2024. It's about positioning. It's about positioning themselves ahead of the potential runs for the White House. You know, this Florida operative basically said both are already running their pre-2024 playbook. So there's this positioning going on. There's these political undercurrents going on. These two political power centers with DeSantis and Trump in the Sunshine State. So that's what it's about.
All right, let's talk Democrats. As
Sure.
you know, President Biden is rallying for Democrats in Pennsylvania, and former President Obama is going to be in Georgia. How does their presence for candidates they've endorsed differ, I guess, from former President Trump's?
I mean, conversely, obviously, it's a different party, different base, but it's the same thing here. It's the same sort of concept. In the Keystone State, in places like Georgia, these two of the most crucial Senate races of this cycle, you know, these leaders of the Democratic Party, what their visits do is an effort to appeal to their base voters, to get out the vote. You know, Obama, especially in Georgia, is a very popular figure, and it's about pulling and appealing to the black voter demographic there. It's a very sizable one in Georgia, of course. About, you know, it's about a third of the population, and what you're seeing is, you know, even though some of the headlines and undercurrents and headwinds may be against the Democrats in some of the latest polling, these leaders and their presence there helps to appeal. Like, come back, come vote, go to the polls, help your candidate, and that's what this is about.
So, bottom line, Finn, we're 11 days out before Election Day.
days.
11
Vlad.
days. I mean, we know because all
believe
we
it.
do is talk about it every single day here at CBS
I know.
News. But how big of a change can visits from these political heavyweights make? I mean, with 11 days to go, with early voting underway in many states across the country, how much of a factor is a former president, a Trump or Obama, or even a current president visiting a particularly vulnerable state? What does that really mean in the end?
I mean, that's a great point, Vlad. I mean, when you mentioned early voting, especially because, you know, people are voting now, and these visits to these battleground states, as you know, Trump is hitting several battleground states, you know, along with Pennsylvania, Florida, Ohio, as you mentioned, and President Obama is barnstorming across these battleground states as well. Georgia today, as you mentioned, Wisconsin, Michigan Saturday, and then Nevada and Pennsylvania next week. These are big names and heavy hitters who are popular with the base of each respective party, and you know, many of the party leaders believe it will help get the voters out, get the voters to the polls. In some areas, it will make more of a difference than others, frankly. But there's at least about 7 toss-up Senate races, for example, Vlad, and their presence could make a difference. I mean, some of them are just super, super, super close. So, you know, by barnstorming, by appealing again to the base voters, it could really have an effect with just 11 days out. 11 days. I can't believe it's 11 days. I was saying 6 months, and now it's 11 days, and it's astonishing, you know.
Yeah,
11 days.
It really is.
One of the most consequential elections in years.
Yes, for sure. It's going to be one of the most consequential ones. I believe I'm quoting former President Obama when I said elections matter. And so this is going to be one of those, I think, Finn, that, I mean, they all matter, but given where we are at this point in our history, given where the polling suggests that Americans are feeling very anxious about their democracy, this is going to be one for the ages. Finn Gomez, always great to talk to you, my friend. Happy
Thanks, Vlad.
Nice weekend.
You too.